Before founding BuzzFeed, Jonah Peretti helped found the Huffington Post. I talked to him about what it takes to start a media company. This is Media Beat.
Look, things change.
Anyone with a camera and a computer
We're now
can do
saying
it.
we should pay attention to
What's the
where
user
we all
value
do.
proposition?
We evolve.
So you were at the Huffington Post from the very beginning. Could you talk a little bit about what it was like to be at this company, which now is a household name, at a time when it didn't even really exist yet?
You know, the truth is that for me, I wasn't sure if it would be a big success. A friend of mine asked me whether he should invest in Huffington Post in the very early days, before we had even launched. And I was like, I'm not sure. I didn't really want to risk my friend's money by telling him to put money in because I wasn't sure yet whether this was going to be a success. And what I was interested in is I knew that blogging was the way social media is now, like Facebook and Twitter and those sites. People were talking about blogging incessantly. The press was writing about it. People kept talking about how blogging is changing the media business and changing all these things. And at the time, all of this press was about the guy in his pajamas blogging. Like, it's about the guy in his pajamas and taking on the mainstream media. So I knew that when we launched with a blog that had Larry David blogging and Tina Brown blogging and all of these establishment people blogging, that bloggers would freak out and link to the site. And so I knew we would get this big spike. And then the question was, could we keep all of those people and have them come back to the site, or would they just come for the novelty of seeing Larry David blogging? And so the thing that we developed to keep people on the site was the headlines. And it was clear that that model was very sticky, that people would come back every day to find new links and click on the new links. So the blog was really our way to get the spike of viral attention, and then the headlines were the way to keep people coming back. And so that was the strategy, and I wasn't sure whether the strategy would work or not. But we launched with Ariana and the Today Show early in the morning. You know, we got that huge spike that we were expecting. And then I watched and waited to see how much will the dip be and where will the plateau be, because that's the way these things work. So I sat watching the stats, seeing, okay, the spikes, have we hit the bottom yet? Are we going to plateau? When are we going to plateau? And what level are we going to plateau at? And when we plateaued and started to keep, where I saw the level we were keeping the traffic at, I called up my friend and I said, you got to invest. We held a lot of traffic, and he put $200,000 into the company, and now he's very happy with the return he got for his investment. And but that was sort of in my mind where, like, I know that this is a good bet, a good enough bet that I want my friend to risk his money on it.
When you launched BuzzFeed, what was the original idea? What was the original concept?
Originally, we were a lab where I could play with ideas that I couldn't implement at Huffington Post because they were not proven ideas, and we were a company, and we were growing, and we were off to the races, and there was things I wanted to mess around with and play with. And slowly, the site started to grow, and at a certain point, I said, "Wow, this should be a company. It's not really fair to not take some investment for this because there's a lot of potential here." And so we brought in SoftBank Capital and Eric Hippo, who was also in Huffington Post, so we could be sister companies and not have conflicts. And we started to build BuzzFeed. And really, BuzzFeed from the start has focused on my first love, which is the kind of internet culture and internet media that is distributed by people who love it, sharing it with each other. And that was something that when we started. BuzzFeed was really ahead of the market. All the traffic on the web and all the publishers got most of their traffic from Google. So even though it was nice to think, oh, share this or whatever, that couldn't really build a business on it. And now what we've seen is that with the rise of Facebook and the rise of Twitter and other social platforms, StumbleUpon, Reddit, that you can actually build a real business. We're at 25 million uniques with Facebook as our biggest traffic referral. All the other social sites sending large amounts of traffic. We're not dependent on Google the way a lot of legacy publishers have been dependent on Google. And that allows us to now say we're going to raise a $15 million round. We're going to double down on hiring reporters and hiring content creators because we think that the social web provides this big opening to really invest in reporting, invest in content, and make content for the world of Facebook and the world of Twitter. And that just wasn't true when we started. You know, we had a railroad locomotive, but the tracks weren't there yet. And now the tracks are there, and so, you know, it makes it a lot easier for us to charge ahead.
If someone were to come to you and ask for advice on, they want to start their own company, they want to start their own website, what would you tell them?
Well, I think one of the problems with the advice that's out there on the web is that it's not tailored to the particular person. So people read tech blogs and they read, TechCrunch or Fred Wilson and all these sites that are talking about how to start startups. I mean, I love these sites and these people do great, amazing work. But there's also an aspect of thinking about what is it that you are passionate about and that you personally are uniquely qualified to do. And that might not be the optimal business model. It might not be the perfect startup company. Maybe everyone wants to build, lightweight social apps that scale to hundreds of millions of users and don't require any content creators and are purely tech-driven or whatever, because that's like a trendy kind of business model. But if you're not the person to create that company and that's not what you're passionate about, reading a bunch of tech blogs about what sort of companies are the best to create and doing that is a pretty bad strategy, because you'll end up creating a company that's not the right company for you. So I think a lot of it is like having self-knowledge about what it is that you get excited about and what are you uniquely qualified of doing. And maybe that means you end up creating a company that is not the optimal company according to tech blogs, but is a new approach. And what happens is that if you do that, oftentimes by the time the company is at scale, what the tech blogs are saying has changed anyway. So you really can't predict what sort of company you should be creating by reading the blogs today. You really have to build something, and 4 or 5 years later is when it matters, and you have no idea what people are going to be saying then.